Namaskar and good morning, friends. I'm D.V. Mehta, Chairman, Genius Group of Institutions, and this is the 39th episode of Genius Samvaad. Unbreakable continues right from the second week of April. And today, among us, Ms. Sampada Chaudhary, Sampada Pachauri, she is there. We welcome you, ma'am, to Genius Samvaad, and we welcome all of you to the Genius Samvaad. And first of all, we'd like to wish you a very happy and healthy new year. I pray to Almighty that rising 2021 be harbinger of happiness, good health, joy, peace, and prosperity in your life. The sparkling 2021 fulfill all your dreams and aspirations. Lots of good luck and best wishes to you and your family. May 2021 a better year for all of us. So, on behalf of Genius Group of Institution, IDB Mehta, welcome all of you again to the 39th episode of Genius Samvad. And yes, what I was talking to you, Sampada Pachauri, she is with us. And just I'll be introducing her. Just listen her biodata, and you will be really amazed that such a wonderful personality is among us to discuss about professional skills. About professional skills. Sampada Pachauri is currently serving as a director and global industry advisor member with Indo Universal Collaboration for Engineering Education. Indo Universal Collaboration for Engineering Education, IUCEE. She plays an active role in the organizational affairs of IUCEE with a focus on students' community to empower them with the tools to grow and make a mark of in the engineering and beyond. She is a postgraduate from VLSI Design from IIT Delhi, 1996 batch. She has worked with SIT, Microelectronics, Noida, Catania, Sicily, and Agrate, Italy. Officers for several years in memory, design and development division as design leader growing up to the project manager position, leading multiple design terms work on 65 nm high speed and high density SRAM library products. She served Micron Technology, Pendencia, USA for 2 years in their image sensor division for mobile and PC product development in 2001. In 2014, she joined Sankalp Semiconductors, now it is HCL Technologies, as a director for North India, as a business development and sales. It was during these years she shifted focus towards organic development of Indian colleges graduates to improve the quality of workforce entering the industry. After working on the field for 2 years, he joined Electronic Sector Skill Council of India as Vice President, Campus Engagement to lead the course of skill development of engineering students. She has traveled extensively all over India and understands the issues deep rooted in the engineering education towards enabling the changes at the grassroots level of the platform of IUC and Sharpness Simplified. Sharpness Simplified is a non-commercial initiative that reaches the masses with simple and obvious solution to complex issues which have plagued the youth and parents in current times. It focuses on building it focuses on building skills for life and is accessible to people of any age, gender, or social status. She is also a fitness and sports enthusiast and an amateur long distance endurance cyclist. Riding across cities and mountains, she lives with a basic principle that all lives are interconnected and one can be happy when others are happy. So, dosto, today we are really very much happy and blessed to welcome Sampada Pachauri on the first ever Genius Samvaad of this academic year, sorry, calendar year 2021. Now, what is skill? We are talking today about professional skills. Now, what is skill? Skill means the ability to do something well. Skill means the ability to do something well. That is expertise. And now, what is profession? What is profession? Profession means a paid occupation, especially one that involves prolonged training and a formal qualification. This is profession. Now, what is professional skill? Professional skill are career competencies that often are not taught as a part of coursework. Professional skills such as leadership, mentoring, conflict resolutions, problem solving, etc., are the value added skill essential to any career, especially and individual professional skills are extremely important in the business world. The way that someone cooperates with others, handles their workload, and act around the office can determine their success or failure as an employee. Friends, basic professional skills represent the skills set in great demand across all businesses, industries, and occupations, and are transferable. Skills, basic skills are transferable wherever you go. Whether your leadership skill, whether problem solving, whether handling the pressures, are transferable skills that employees use in every job or businesses. Research conducted by Harvard University, Carnegie Foundation, and Stanford University concludes that 85% of the job success comes from having well developed professional and people skill, and around 15% skills and success comes from technical skills and knowledge or hard skills. So, dosto, today among us to discuss about all these things, what is professional skill, why professional skill, how professional skill. We have Sampada Pachauri among us. We welcome you, ma'am, again, and we welcome all of you again. And now she will explain us what is professional skill, why professional skill, and how professional skills. Over to Sampada Pachauri.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you, Mehta Saab. This was such an amazing introduction, and I welcome everybody who is listening to this. I wish a very happy and healthy and safe new year to everyone who's listening and watching. And thank you so much, Genius Group of Institutions, for giving me this platform to address people, uh, learners, educators, uh, students, anybody who's preparing to be ready for the next generation of industry that we call. So I would speak about professional skills, and DB Mehta has given an absolutely perfect introduction to what professional skills are, how they are needed, how they affect the person's ability to perform the job that they are hired for or that they are supposed to perform. So with that context beautifully set, I would like to share some of my slides and then take it up from there. Can you see my screen?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Can you also see my presentation?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. So So today is 3rd January, almost the start of the new year. It is a new year right now, and we are ready to talk about professional skills. And so professional skills, what do we really mean? So just like Devi Mehta Sahab mentioned, these are the skills which are developed for career competencies, and they are essential. They're essential to whatever we decide to do, all fields, domains, activities, whichever we engage in to make a livelihood. They are important for higher education, they're important for research, they're important if we are trying to be an entrepreneur, if you're running a business, or if you're working as an employee. Professional skills are the abilities and the competencies that will help us lead through anything that we eventually decide to do. And some of those which I've just listed here, and of course, I'll be talking in detail about each one of them. So, collaboration is important because we are not working as an individual. You know, man is a social animal, teamwork, because you do what you can do, and the other people will do what they can do, and together you do something much bigger and larger. Leadership, mentoring, ethics, negotiation, conflict management, project management, productivity, risk management, they all fall under the big wide umbrella of professional skills. And actually the list of these skills is really much larger than the list of courses which students will find when they are trying to build up their resume. So before I begin deep into this, I would like to bring a scenario, like a story from cycling, because I'm a cyclist, and not many people may have heard of this race across America, RAM, which is the world's toughest bicycle race. And it is equivalent to climbing Mount Everest. So the cyclists who are ultra cyclists, who are racers and who believe in cycling as a sport, they work really hard. It is an aspiration for them to really ride in the race across America, and very few Indians have done that so far. In fact, only just 3 Indians have done that. Out of them, one has done only virtually this year in 2020, last year in 2020. So to reach the start line, and start line here means for each one of us almost equivalent to when we are entering the industry. So see, start line is that. So reach the start line of this race, the person, the cyclist, goes through intense coaching and training. So cycling, you will probably believe, what is there in cycle, and you can see the cycle, but you cannot cycle unless you have learned the art of balancing, and that's the skill. So once you start cycling, that's not about it. So that's not all that it takes for you to reach the start line. You need to understand the mechanics of cycling with your full body to be able to really qualify to reach the start line. And it takes a lot of strategy and planning and preparation, because the race goes around for 12 long days, and it covers from west coast to east coast of America. It goes through mountains, it goes through extreme heat to extreme cold and rains as a weather condition, all within those 12 days that a cyclist will have to endure. So within those 12 days of day and night cycling, he has to be able to complete it and reach the finish line. And imagine this person who you see in the picture, he's smiling at the finish line. He's not really fallen down, he's not bleeding, he's not crying. He's standing tall and proud with a smile on his face. That's because this person must have prepared absolutely well. And it's the combination of knowledge and skill which determines the quality of the race that this gentleman would have done from start to finish. So reaching the start line is important for each one of you, which is your industry. But the quality of how you will actually be in the 20, 30, 40 years of your professional life is a great amount of work that goes into developing your skills, right? So another example to make another point which is relevant to skill and knowledge here is as D.V. Mehta Saab just said, knowledge can be transferred, right? So if I know something and if you're sitting across me from the table, I'll be able to tell you how an orange looks like. Or if you see this board here on the left hand side, this is a board where a coach is actually giving instructions to the team members about their positions. So whatever we learn in theory in school and colleges is kind of like knowledge where people have done scientific learning and they are transferring their learning to you in the form of knowledge and information. So you can get this knowledge either through people or through self learning or through watching videos or reading journals and scriptures. But then comes the skill, which is actually being on the field. So if you see these two footballers, they cannot become footballers unless they actually start playing with the ball and kicking the ball. And they get better and better at it as they practice more and more of these skills. So while you are able to develop skills, you may also be able to develop a bit of a knowledge about it or more of a knowledge about it. It's just a matter of time. But if you just have knowledge of something, you may not necessarily have the skills required to do that thing. So being knowledgeable and having skills together is what will actually make you successful. Being skilled only can still take you some far, some distance, but being knowledgeable only will probably not take you too far. So, having knowledge just enables you or it catalyzes the mastery in the skills that you're trying to develop. And the thing about skills is very, very straightforward. You just have to repeatedly do this over and over and over again. So, anything that you may have taken up, even if it is cooking or playing cards or cycling, for instance, or doing maths, or even the art of learning itself, the more you do, the better you get at it. It requires a lot of focus. It requires a will and a determination that, yes, I have taken up to work on these skills and I'm going to develop these skills. It requires persistence and patience because there is no fast forward formula to actually be highly skilled. To be a better skilled person, you have to put in the time and practice that it requires you to. So that's what is about the knowledge and the skill which go hand in hand and how they can help you to be more successful. Now let's look at the times which are looking. So we are actually standing at the at the edge of beginning of industry 4.0 or intelligence revolution, we may call it. The images that you see here are just a few snapshots, right? So this is the landscape of the industry, which is actually absolutely transformational. And the digitization has grown at a rapid pace, and it has penetrated all aspects of life. The humans and machines now they all work together. It's no longer that humans are just controlling the machines. It's machines and humans working together hand in hand. And we've reached this far not just by knowing the sciences or just by discovering what people had learned in the past centuries. This entire new world order has actually emerged as an application of knowledge and innovation, which happens over knowledge, which is again a skill. So on the top left, you see it's a restaurant, which is a completely robot operated restaurant. There is no human touch here. Then you see a smart home. So the everything around this house is connected to each other. It's a smart home. You see this diagram of kidney here, which is actually a 3D printed organ, human organ, which can be implanted. On the bottom, you see autonomous and connected smart cars, which are driving on their own. You see this image of a meat which is grown in the lab. No animals are killed to make this meat. You see this image of a person who's wearing clothes which have smart sensors on his body, which are able to uh, not only capture the vital statistics, but also record them and then transfer them to an electronic device by way of which he can understand and create a graph of his performance and fitness, right? So this is the intelligence revolution that we are standing at the start off. So if you work on your professional skills, you have to keep in mind how industry is going to look like. So the factory of the future, or industry 4.0 as we keep calling it, will have certain features, and this is just a few features I've listed here, which are more prominent, which are actually driving the requirement of professional skills for us to prepare our students in schools and colleges. So the major drivers is what you see here, and the first and the foremost on this is adaptability. The companies, they have to either adapt to this change or they will die away. And an example I will give you from Amazon. So when Jeff Bezos started Amazon, his idea was actually just to have a bookshop, an ability to, and not even a bookshop. It was more like he operated from his garage in Seattle, where he just wanted to make a, bookstore which is able to take books to the people wherever they are, right? Delivering books. And in fact, in one of his interviews, he said he started off by doing it himself, right? He was not really using any technology to do that. Now look at Amazon, what it does today. This is where an example of adaptability stands tall in our face. I mean, Amazon has taken consumerism like anything. It can bring you groceries, fresh groceries. It has taken up the idea of delivery, where it can make you an hour delivery. You order it now, and within an hour, you will get this, your order at your doorstep. In fact, Amazon has also tied up with car manufacturers where they are, and camera manufacturers, where they are actually making the delivery. And if the person is sitting in their office, they are able to control the receipt of that delivery. So adaptability, right? Resource efficiency and ergonomics. I mean, so resources, we human resources are in the center of everything, right? We're talking about professional skills for humans, human resources, right? So the more efficient we are, the more we can do, the more we can help the business to grow, right? So for every individual to be more and more efficient, a company has to look at the aspects of ergonomics, which will increase the profit by way of improving the productivity, right? Then integration of customers and business partners in businesses and value processes. So you see this image of Adidas here. So Adidas launched a Me Adidas campaign. This is part of their managing innovation, which actually allows mass customization. So today, I don't just go to an Adidas store to say, okay, look at the store shoes which are available on the shelf, try to wear each one of them, see which one fits me best, and then whichever makes me the most comfortable user, I just buy that and come home. No, I don't have to settle down with the choices which are available on the shelf. Through Me Editor's, a user can actually make an order or participate in the design of the shoe, which is totally customized for myself. So this is how the businesses and customers are actually integrating with each other. Supply chain integration. So I'll use an example of Nestle, which is not the likes of Starbucks, not the likes of Costa Coffee, right? Nestle has tightly integrated its suppliers. So there are trees in the mountainside where the coffee beans are growing, and from the growers there to the millions of homes, to the user like me or you, whoever is drinking and enjoying that coffee, the entire supply chain has been integrated in a way that the sourcing of inventory, the management of inventory, the sourcing of raw materials, the managing of inventory, the production of the coffee, and then delivery to the coffee drinker at the time we want it and with the flavors that we want it. So this whole thing has been totally integrated into into a very productive supply chain, right? Now look at data availability for optimization in cyber physical systems. So when we talk of data availability, everything that's happening is happening through data. We are on social media, we are using computers, everything that we do is available on the cloud. Now when we are on the cloud, we are actually able to generate this data and use it to derive patterns, to see the trends, to identify what we can do more, right? Now that allows us to optimize the services. Now, since this is all a data which is user data, which is available on the cloud, there comes the need for cyber physical systems. These cyber physical systems are the ones where the data is making changes, which is exchanging the information for one use over another. Of course, cyber security comes into the picture with all of this. So, this is how the factory of the future or industry 4.0 actually looks like, right? Let's look at one more thing about industry 4.0 before we start understanding the professional skills we need to develop and build on our own so that we are able to meet the demands of this industry that I've been talking about in the last 5 to 10 minutes, right? So this is a movement from industry 3.0 to industry 4.0, right? So this table, which was created by Roland Berger, it kind of lists some of the transitions which are very evident and prominent. Process. In Industry 3.0, everything was rigid. It was mostly manual, right? So processes, they were standard, rigid meaning standard, and they were fed via control systems. And the people who were actually operating these processes, they were manual labor. They were not applying their thinking or mind. They were given instructions and skills to operate. This was a repetitive operation for them, right? In industry 4.0, however, the repetitive tasks are being automated. So all the repetitive tasks are being given to machines and computers to handle, and operators are no longer mindless people. Now operator here is the one who knows digital skills, who's competent at digital technology skills, and he not just operates the system, but he's actually applying and analyzing the data which is getting continuously generated out of this. The scales of the products. So earlier you would go and buy Honda City or Maruti. So your Maruti and my Maruti would be the same. Your Honda City and my Honda City would be the same. And now we are looking at personalized and customized products. So take example of Audi. So Audi allows users to customize and take part in the design of the car, right? So from the interiors to the exteriors to the technical features, there is an Audi configurator, an Audi catalog, which is available for you to place an order for your car, right? And the promise of quality and standard from Audi still stays. So you're not buying a car and taking it to your, local city designer to work on it. Rather, you're getting the same quality of customization, which is classified by the standard of Audi. That's what we mean by products becoming more and more personalized. And this is a mass customization that Industry 4.0 is seeing. Now, the reason I'm going into the details of all of this before I get into skills is because that's where your skills are going to be looking like. So it is better to understand the pulse of the Industry 4.0 very well so that you're able to see where your skills are going to be utilized and which skill and how it is relevant. And once you understand the relevance of that skill, all it requires is just knowing about it and working on it, right? So which is why it is important for you to really follow these few informations and examples that I'm putting across. Scale of factory. So earlier, the factories were mostly found at a place where there was cheapest labor and cheapest land, and the cost of transport was not so high. So larger factories and centralized locations were chosen to for manufacturing and production. But now with the amount of customization that we are looking at, we are going into decentralized locations and much smaller factory locations. Supply chain. So earlier it was mostly based on having inventory, right? So organizations, they manage their processes based on the stocks and they planned ahead with reserves. But digital technology and AI, artificial intelligence, it allows organizations to analyze the trends, patterns, and then apply this information in a dynamic and predictive approach. Take, for example, of Uber, right? Uber Cab or Ola, right? So they have an example of predictive pricing based on the route segments and the time of the data. Here's what time of the data, right? So time of the day and this root segment is coming from the usage. So there is a data that is getting generated, and then this data is being fed, and then according to that the number of cabs which should be available on certain spots is decided based on the density of the bookings made. So this is supply chain, and just an example, right? Now success metric. So as I said earlier, the idea for businesses to make more money or to improve their ROIs was to go into lower labor, cheaper labor areas, and lower pricing of land, and managing them through increasing the efficiency of people by making them to work extra, right? But now companies are not hesitating in going for a higher priced skilled labor, right? And so we are talking about capital investment, and then we are looking at higher returns on that by way of better marketing and better selling. Customer, earlier the wall between the business and the customer was like really huge. There was much little feedback coming from the customer about the products that were being made. So there was an R&D department which was making the products, and then there was a sales department which was selling those products. But now the customer is hugely integrated into this entire cycle, so the interaction between customer and business is direct, and it is pretty much high. So, with all of that kind of a background, now let's look at the World Economic Forum 2030 prediction. So, as you can see, the Industry 3.0 to 4.0 shift is happening. So, there is also a shift in the industry skills which are required. So, while in the Industry 3.0, the physical and manual skills and basic cognitive skills were just enough for people to thrive. With basic cognitive skills, people have actually lived their entire 30, 40 years of professional life, and they're happily retired and enjoying. But these basic cognitive skills will no longer help you go past 5 to 6 years in the industry anymore. We need to develop more and more on of our higher cognitive skills. And then if you notice, there is a increased need for social and emotional skills by 26%, and technology skills is actually looking at a 60% increase in the need. So to make this point clear, let's go into Bloom's taxonomy. I'm sure pretty much everybody who has been into this field or domain would have heard of Bloom's taxonomy and what it tries to say, and particularly in Indian education context, I believe we all will agree that most of the time we have stayed within the lower two levels, which is remember and understand. Most of our education in schools and colleges has made us stay on the remember and understand until the last decade, right? So in remember, it's like knowledge, it's factual information. We just know about it. So somebody tells me this is an orange, and I start uh, calling it an orange because somebody told me it's an orange, and I know this is moon, and I know that this is how long the day is, and that's what we are talking about when we stay in the remember. Then understanding, so we now start to understand what those things can do, what a day and night cycle can do, what this fruit orange can do. So we start understanding this, we start actually describing it, we start recognizing it, we start comparing it with other things, right? But what we need to know about Industry 4.0 is the need to start graduating from the levels of remember and understand to apply and go all the way up to create. So follow Bloom's taxonomy. I mean, there is a huge amount of material which is available on Google, and I don't have to take a course on Bloom's taxonomy at all. In fact, I'm not even a master's at that, but use this to start changing or altering the educational concepts that you apply everywhere, right? So try to move into the upper stages of analyzing, evaluating, and then eventually creating will happen mostly on its own. So once you have put in a lot of focus on application of what you have learned, then trying to connect multiple ideas to understand how things can actually be derived. So in fact, if you notice, for COVID pandemic, I can safely say that the mRNA, right, so this was an invention which happened, right, and then applying that and analyzing the use of mRNA for a subsequent current scenario in this pandemic. That's what is about applying and analyzing and evaluating, right? And then eventually creating a treatment, creating a vaccination. So that happens. So just an example I used. So more and more people should try to graduate, and you just can't jump up by bypassing remember and bypassing away the understand. You have to grow up, but you just have to speed up, and you must try to go all the way up to creative thinking to actually start preparing your students for the future, right? So the next three slides, I'm going to talk about the professional skills. Again, as I said, the list is really long, but we have taken three broad categories. One is higher order cognitive skills, and then of course social and communication skills, and eventually the skills which are of technological and hard skills, right? And when I speak about these skills, which you notice here, I'll try to use examples where I can, but you have to mostly try to understand it more on the way they are defined, right? As I said, 9% increase in higher order cognitive skills is what we expect in this running the decade, which is running until 2030. So advanced literacy and writing. So this is about information literacy, media literacy, technology literacy, apart from language literacy, which falls into basic cognitive skills. So with an assumption that you're already a master of language, whichever language it is. It could be French, it could be English, it could be German, or any language that you choose to do. So being a master and having a command at the language, which is anyway part of basic and which is assumed that it has to be good. Now we talk about advanced skills, right? So information literacy is actually, it's about processing the information that is continuously being dumped on us, and then being able to segregate the useful information from the not so useful, truthful or fake information, right? We keep getting a lot of fake information. Then comes media literacy. There are multiple platforms available. So today, for example, we choose to do this uh, webinar through this platform, but there are multiple platforms available, right? Technology has given us features and choices, right? So we are connected globally on these interfaces. So the understanding of media is basically how you are communicating, how you are exchanging information. Technology literacy, it is similar to digital literacy. So we are no longer exchanging information from man to man. We are going from man to machine or machine to man, right? So an individual who's technologically and digitally sound is also able to think critically, right? And that's what is needed. So with critical thinking, it basically is an ability to reason. It is about being a listener rather than just a silent spectator or just receiving information, right? Critical thinker is going to be always questioning, why? If somebody tells you, okay, this is an orange, he'll say why this is an orange, what makes it an orange. So they don't just accept something at face value. They always try to go beyond the information which is given to them by thinking more about it, by generating more questions out of it, being more curious about it, by generating several arguments about it, right? So they like to analyze, and they like to question, and then try to connect the dots together, right? But they are no longer doing this on the basis of hunch. They apply facts. So critical thinkers, they go into fact-based data processing. Creative thinkers, however, or creativity, however, is basically ability to think differently. So there is a fact, and then I use that fact to then create a new angle or a new perspective out of it. So it allows me to find a new way or a new solution, or even to see if the solution or a problem is real or not, right? So creativity takes me to the next level of critical thinking. And then comes decision making, where I'm able to now choose, make a choice. So make a choice between what is and what is not, what should be and what should not be. So this ability, it gets better and better and better the more we engage into doing things which exercise critical thinking. Collaboration to solve complex problems, it is absolutely important. So till now, the way the world has functioned is that companies, they wanted to preserve their IP, intellectual property. Intellectual property is basically the work, the scientific research that they have done. And there is a competitiveness. So in schools we are competitive, right? I do something, I discover something, and I'd like to keep it to myself, and then I would directly go to the teacher or my supervisor in the office and say, okay, this is what I learned, why, what I developed, so that I'm looking at things more in an individual manner. But in collaboration, we start operating as a team. We become more resourceful. So there is something which I know and I can do, and there is something else which the other person knows, and that's his strength. So instead of just staying on my strength and trying to do something, I would rather start making a team. So, since the problems that we are looking at, the ones that I just discussed in the previous slides, they are all complex problems. So, not one individual or one company or organization can actually tackle everything. So, collaboration is the need of the hour. That's exactly how you can network optimally. It helps you to combine these strengths, right? So, it's absolutely opposite of competition, because we are no longer looking at individual gain, we are looking at collective gain. Quantitative and statistical skills, so this is again where you start collecting a lot of data, and then you start using it, analyzing it, and you start using mathematical principles to derive information from that. So that's a very much a numerical skill. It's a spatial recognition also falls into quantitative and statistical skills, and it is very much needed because we are bombarded with data. Now, with all of this comes importance of time and project management. We have this one life, and we are trying to do things which are worth 10 lifetimes in one life, right? And everything that we're doing is a project. Even this whole presentation that I'm making, this whole exercise of Genius Samvaad, it's a project, right? Arranging a meeting is a project, or going out with a team for a team bonding exercise is a project. So project is not just about making a product. Everything that we are doing is a project. The ability to manage it, the ability to make the best out of it, the ability to minimize risk wastage in this, to do this with the outcome that is intended and the purpose which is being met, that is project management. And then of course to be able to do it respecting the time for myself and time for others, so that it is still relevant. If you start doing something and by the time you finish it's no longer relevant, it's no good use to anybody. So this goes hand in hand. And then of course with all of this, you do probably understand that since we are talking about information coming from various sources and data which is generated hugely for different processes from different mediums, so having all of the ability to use that data to connect the dots together and to be able to apply it to come up with a problem solving approach, so you do need ability to process complex information. So this is just some of those cognitive skills which you should be focusing more and more upon. As I said, that does not mean that you don't develop your basic cognitive skills. They are needed, but we are well past that. So you need to start with your basic cognitive skills and then graduate yourself to higher cognitive skills. Just like you saw in Bloom's taxonomy, you cannot jump up without focusing more on the primary and the basic skills. But remember, you cannot be successful, or you cannot really survive next 2-3 decades if you just stay within those lower two brackets, right? Now, social and emotional skills. Uh, until Industry 3.0, there was very little relevance given to social and emotional skills. Things were more process oriented, business oriented. Nobody really talked about emotional skills. In fact, it was looked down upon, to be honest. But to notice, it's looking at a 26% of increase in relevance in the coming times. So leadership skills falls in the topmost of a social and emotional skill. So people have changed their companies not because the company was bad or the project was bad. They have changed these companies mostly because their bosses were not good or they were not able to gel along very well with their peers and supervisors and bosses. The concept of boss itself is obsolete now, right? Now we work with leaders. We don't really work with bosses. And who's a leader? A person who actually listens. He's mostly listening to you. He has empathy. He can understand what you're trying to say. He can understand what you're feeling. He can understand you for the way you operate and you function. He knows exactly how to get the best out of you, how to get the best performance out of you, right? He's able to communicate messages clearly, easy for you to understand and easy for everybody to understand. He has the foresight for strategic thinking, planning, and executing, right? He can foresee risks and things that can fail. He's also able to use failures not to crash people, but to derive lessons for future course corrections. So these people, they have the ability to de-link the person, right? They don't really look at the person being bad or good. They don't really judge the person that they work with. Rather, they use tasks to evaluate the performance without being judgmental. Of course, that means that they are compassionate, right? And they're also people who are able to motivate others. They are self-driven, self-motivated, and they are able to drive more and more people along. Those are leadership skills. Now, advanced communication is part of leadership skill in a way. Negotiation skill is interpersonal skills. These are all part of leadership skills, but they're in any case important. Whether you choose to work alone as an individual or you are working in a group or a team of people. So, advanced communication skill is not just about oral and written exchange. It, as I said, it's assumed that you have a command on your language, but it also means that there is brevity in what you do and how you do, or how you say, or how you communicate, right? And then you also are able to convey this information based on the audience that is receiving, the way it is being comprehended, and the way the person is going to respond to it, right? The time and the content that is part of this information exchange is to optimize productivity, so that there is, the information doesn't come to you later than you needed it, or too early than you needed it, right? So those are the abilities of good communication skills. Good communication skills means also to be able to handle conflicts. So I am saying something, you're saying something, and we both agree to disagree, right? We've been practicing that for the last 10 years or so, where we start accepting that my point of view and your point of view can be different. Doesn't make me wrong or you wrong, but it allows us to think of something which is out of the box, which goes beyond my and your point of view, but a third point of view which may be even a better summation of both. Negotiation, that's where it falls in. So conflict resolution and negotiation falls into this, where people see these differences and then see this as an opportunity to come up with something which both will agree upon. It's more of a convergence of disagreements and arguments, right? Interpersonal skills, again, this is all interrelated. As I said, compassion and empathy I've already spoken about, right? Entrepreneurship. Now, entrepreneurship does not necessarily mean that I'm going to open a shop and run a business tomorrow, right? Entrepreneurship skill is mainly an ability. It's like a mindset, right? It's an ability which allows me to reduce wastage. For instance, it allows me to see things more at the value that it creates or generates. So everything that I do, I'm able to associate a valuation to it. I'm able to associate an exchange of this value from one person or one business to another. That's what entrepreneurship is about. The more we understand and develop our entrepreneurship skills, the better employee we become for our company, right? Because then we don't just do things because we have to do it and in the evening we come back home. Rather, we do it because it is going to contribute to a much larger business objective. It kind of aligns to the mission and the vision statement of the company that I'm working upon. So I become a shareholder or a stakeholder into the business objectives that are given to me. So I'm no longer just functioning as an employee, rather I'm working as one of the entrepreneurs in that organization. Teaching and training others, this is very, very important. And I want to actually mention something about ragging here, right? So in India, when somebody goes into the college, the first few weeks are about ragging. So all the senior uh, students who are present, they will have a lot of fun by I call it bullying actually, by welcoming this new bunch of freshers and then making them do things and having a good laugh at their expense. On the contrary, uh, there are places, top Ivy League universities where there is a mentor which is associated to a fresher. you know so as soon as a fresher enters a college or a university, there is a mentor who's assigned, and this mentor actually makes the induction of this fresher easy and comfortable. This mentor is able to tell him each and everything about how to be able to bring the best out of you, how to settle into, how to integrate into the new culture or the new place or the university that you have entered. So ability to mentor, to teach, and to train is actually not doing good to somebody else. It's actually doing good to yourself. The more you develop this skill while you're in college by becoming a mentor to the junior batches that are coming, the better you're able to process yourself when you enter into the professional world, right? Because that's where you start working as a team. There is less of a junior senior relationship and there is more of a team relationship. And the more you have learned the art of mentoring, the better you will be as a leader. Flexibility, adaptability. I think I've already spoken about adaptability. As I said, adapt or die. Flexibility also allows you to not be very stuck with things that you have known or that you do. Open yourself to the opportunities, to the challenges, which are actually opportunities to do something different, to do something more, to learn something extra, or to be able to perform differently from what you have done so far. So flexibility just makes you more and more agile and moving with the times. It allows you to embrace the change, the way the change comes in too rapid and too fast, and which is why lifelong learning is important. So these are all things about continuously improving yourself, and then the ability to keep unlearning the older methods and older processes and systems and start embracing newer concepts, newer findings, and newer ways of doing things. So, this is how you will actually grow and then also allow the system around you to grow. Now comes the last category, which is the technological skills. And you see, 60% increase is going to be senior, but these are hard skills. So I don't have to really explain all of this because pretty much every site is loaded, whether it is Coursera or MOOC or edX. There are tons of courses, short and long term, with certificates which are available. But yes, it is very, very essential now for you to focus on what you do. You can no longer stay at the superficial level of physical concepts or science. You have to understand your core sciences well so that you are able to apply them in your future. You don't have to know everything about everything because information is easily available and traceable. Also, because by being resourceful, you can be a master of something and somebody else can be a master of something. And by collaboration, you can together make a big, an exceptional product. So you don't have to memorize and know everything, but it is important that you know what you know better than you desired to know, because you have to deep dive into the concepts of engineering and sciences. You have to have that in-depth competency. You have to be able to use that information when you need it the most. You have to be able to recall and connect and analyze those skills. So you have to be able to uh, uh, so your analytical skills matter a lot, where you are able to detect patterns and you're able to brainstorm and you're able to interpret and you're able to integrate and then do a lot of decision making based on multiple choices. The ability to channelize your thought process and then developing algorithms for that. You cannot bypass fact based reasoning anymore. You have to be able to digitally become very sound, right? If you are looking at multiple languages, it is important because it helps you to work at a global level of solving problems which affect not just you or your neighborhood, but a bigger social impact can be generated or created out of it. Having good idea of socio-political and geographical diversity and culture makes you smarter, makes you exceptional as a resource to any industry, right? So these are just some of the ways where some of these skills can be looked upon. I will just, in the interest of time, come to one fact that I'll make about cost of communication gap. So just one of the skill that I would mention here is miscommunication can cost an organization $5,200 annually per employee. Now, if this data makes sense, then you know why the importance of skills is being talked about. Again, this is just a few pointers at how to be a good communicator, but I think I've already spoken about it. This would break the monotony of the serious talk that I was doing all along. And this is from a movie, Lagan. I think most of you would have seen this movie, and this team which Amir Khan is trying to create or form is to play and win the cricket match against the group of Britishers who are masters, who already know this game very well. They are expert cricketers, and he has to know this game and create this team and play this game, and not just play but win it, because it's a matter of life and death for them. It's not just a sport. And the way he picks up the team members to play cricket against the team of Britishers is what I'm trying to point out. So he looks at the skills, the day-to-day things that most of those people he picked up were doing in their other life. Somebody who was able to chase the hen, had the agility and the swiftness. So this is how he decides how to cast his team. So when somebody is looking at you to hire you, they are going to look at the skills that you already have, which you are able to demonstrate in your current role, right? It's not that you will be hired first and then you will have the time and opportunity to develop those skills, because developing your skills is a slow and patient process. So you have to continuously work on developing your skills. Do not push it for future. Do not leave it for something to do once you have acquired your degree. You can learn a new concept or science anytime, right? But the skills, they take their own time to develop and become good at. So be continuously active on developing your skills. And if you don't know how to really start and where to start from, this book from Stephen Covey, which is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, is a good start. It's written very well. The language is simple. It describes processes in, step by step, how to go from one to the second habit. And it is you can read it multiple times till it becomes your second nature, and it will probably take care of most of the professional skills at a very basic level that I just spoke about, as it will definitely make you a very good leader, of course, and a good communicator as well. Now, if you don't really focus on your skills, as I said, it's not possible to survive in this industry 4.0 or the professional world that we are looking at. I just started my entire presentation by describing how the future factories are going to look like. And to be able to survive them, you have to be able to understand those skills which are needed, to see where you are going to be good at, to have a self assessment for yourself, and then of course working on your skills and continuously checking where you have reached and how much more do you need to polish or hone your skills more, right? So with this I would end my speech, and I believe this talk must have helped you to you know get a good in-depth understanding of uh, where to begin, and of course the time to begin is now. So thank you for being so patient, and yeah, I'm happy to take questions. I can't hear you, DV Mehta ji.
So, ma'am, you very nicely you elaborated why professional skill, what professional skill, and how professional skill. So, very short, very sweet, but absolute, specific, and precise information and guidance you have provided to the audience. You did talk about start line to finish line. Everything you did talk. You did talk about success is summation of competency and execution. Success is summation of competency and execution. We talk prior knowledge is a catalyst to mastering the skill. We talk about what intelligence revolutions are going to be in the next for the next generation. Industry 4.0 and the factory of future. You did talk very nicely about it. What the futuristic factories would be. You did talk customization of product service, customization of products and service. Same by reducing the labor cost and decreasing the complexity cost. You did talk very nicely about Bloom's taxonomy, where remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. Higher order cognitive skills you did talk. In one life, we want to live 10 lives. A signature statement you really like it is a message for everybody that in one life, we want to live 10 lives. Social and emotional skills, you talk very nicely. Technological skills, how far they are required, and cost of communication is too much. If you do not communicate properly, timely, and rightly, then you may cost a huge, and this is what the survey is saying. You remember Amir Khan and the Lagan, how he utilized all the resources he was having, some way, how he dared to challenge the problems. And you very nicely highlighted about 7 habits of highly effective people. When you remember Lagan, and you did talk about how he like very nicely arranged his team members and like best out of all their weaknesses and with all the odds challenges, but with his daring he could really win the game with the highly professional people. And मुझे उससे एक बहुत अच्छी स्टोरी याद आती है कि कृष्ण और बलराम कृष्ण और बलराम वो दोनों एक बार एक गांव से दूसरे गांव जा रहे थे, समझो मथुरा से गोकुल जा रहे थे, तो रास्ते में अंधेरा हो गया जंगल में, और बहुत अंधेरा हो गया और जंगल में फिर बलराम ने बोला कि कृष्णा अभी तो हमें यहीं रुक जाना पड़े बिकॉज वी कुड नॉट मूव फर्दर. सो कृष्ण ने बोला नो प्रॉब्लम यहीं रुक जाते, लेकिन इट वॉज अ वेरी डेंजरस फॉरेस्ट, वेरी डेंजरस. तो बोले कि हम ये करते हैं कि दो प्रहर तू सो जाता है, दो प्रहर मैं सो जाऊंगा. तो पहले कृष्ण सो जाते हैं और बलराम वहां जाग के चौकी करते हैं. उतने बहुत बड़ा राक्षस होता है, बहुत बड़ा राक्षस, और वो बड़ी बड़ी आवाज करता है. तो उसको देख के बलराम घबरा जाते हैं. बलराम बलराम घबरा जाते हैं. तो होता यूं है कि बलराम का कद छोटा हो जाता है और राक्षस का कद बड़ा हो जाता है. वो और नजदीक आता है और बड़े से चिल्लाता है. बलराम थोड़े और पीछे चले जाते हैं, और छोटे हो जाते हैं, और जो राक्षस था वो और बड़ा हो जाता है. अगेन वो नजदीक आता है, बलराम बिल्कुल छोटे हो जाते हैं और वो समझो अनकॉन्शियस होकर गिर जाते हैं. और उसकी आवाज जो आती है उससे कृष्ण भगवान जागते हैं. और कृष्ण भगवान को ये लगा कि भी अभी मेरा टाइम जागने का हो गया, सब बलराम सो गया है. तो कृष्ण भगवान जागे, उतने में वही राक्षस फिर से आया, चिल्लाने लगा कि मैं खा जाऊंगा, मैं खा जाऊंगा। तो कृष्ण भगवान सामने उसको बोलते हैं कि क्या खाया जाएगा, व्हाट डू यू वांट। तो इतने कृष्ण भगवान सामने कॉन्फिडेंस से बात करते, तो होता ही है कि वो जो राक्षस था वो छोटा हो जाता है, कृष्ण बड़े हो जाते हैं। तो राक्षस होता है और उसको गुस्सा आता है और चिल्लाता है, कृष्ण भगवान सामने और चिल्लाते हैं, तो और भी राक्षस छोटा हो जाता है और चिल्लाता है नजदीक आके। कृष्ण भगवान सामने इतनी बड़ी आवाज से उसको चिल्लाते हैं, तो बिल्कुल छोटा हो जाता है राक्षस, छोटा हो जाता है। फिर कृष्ण भगवान उसको पकड़ लेते हैं, पकड़ के अपने धोती में बांध देते हैं। पकड़ के अपनी धोती में बांध देते हैं, और फिर दूसरे दिन दोनों सुबह निकलते, कृष्ण और बलराम दोनों चलते चलते निकलते हैं। तो बलराम वॉज वेरी मच लाइक एक्साइटेड टू शेयर। तो बलराम ने बोला, कृष्ण पता है कल रात को एक बहुत बड़ा राक्षस आया था, यहाँ बड़े बड़े से चिल्ला रहा था, और मैं तो मतलब इतना घबरा गया था। तो उतने में कृष्ण भगवान अपनी धोती में से वो राक्षस को छोड़, उसका नोट छोड़ के वो दिखाते, यही राक्षस। तो बोले हाँ, यही राक्षस। हाउ कुड इट हैपन, ये कैसे पॉसिबल हुआ। कृष्ण भगवान ने बताया कि दोस्त, ये राक्षस नहीं, ये प्रॉब्लम है, और ये हमारे लाइफ में हम सब ये प्रॉब्लम को फेस करते हैं, और प्रॉब्लम को जैसे प्रॉब्लम से आप भागोगे उतना प्रॉब्लम बड़ा होता जाएगा, लेकिन जितना प्रॉब्लम को फेस करोगे उतना प्रॉब्लम आपके लिए मैनेजेबल हो जाएगा, छोटा हो जाएगा। चाहे आप समझो कि आप पेरेंट्स हो, चाहे मदर हो, चाहे फादर हो, चाहे आप एंटरप्रेन्योर हो, चाहे आप जॉब करते हो, बराबर, चाहे आप स्टूडेंट हो, चाहे आप टीचर हो, हर एक के लिए ये स्टोरी इज एप्लीकेबल कि अगर आपको प्रॉब्लम का सॉल्यूशन चाहिए तो प्रॉब्लम का सामना करना है, नॉट टू मूव अवे फ्रॉम द प्रॉब्लम। ये लगान का आपने जो बताया उससे मुझे स्टोरी याद है कि लगान में आमिर खान has like shown so many qualities of success, so many quality to be successful. Among these are the two major qualities वो जो आपने बताई कि how to get the work done from others, और जो लिमिटेड सोर्सेस होते हैं उसका बेस्ट यूटिलाइजेशन कैसे करना, दैट इज वन थिंग। एंड अनदर थिंग, नॉट टू रन अवे फ्रॉम द प्रॉब्लम। And so this is the way Lagan was a huge success, not like as a movie, but it is successful as a huge message to the society after 25-30 years also the same way. So we'll be moving further towards the interaction, question answers. But before that, a small quotation for you. You cannot dream yourself into a character. You cannot dream yourself into a character. You must hammer and forge yourself one. You must have to hammer and forge yourself one. क्यों कि सिर्फ ड्रीम करने से कोई आप बड़ी पर्सनालिटी सक्सेस नहीं बन जाता। आपको लगे कि मैं बिल गेट्स हो जाऊं, मैं मुकेश अंबानी हो जाऊं, मैं रविंद्रनाथ टैगोर हो जाऊं, बराबर, मैं शेक्सपियर हो जाऊं, मैं विराट कोहली हो जाऊं, बट दैट्स नॉट पॉसिबल। यू हैव टू हैमर योरसेल्फ, माने रोज अपने आप को शेप अप करना है, एंड यू हैव टू फोर्ज योरसेल्फ अप विद दिस। सर्टेन क्वेश्चंस आर देयर among us. Mr. Dimple Mehta, she is also there. She is our CEO, Genius Group of Institution. I would like to welcome Madam to this Genius Award. And now she will take over the question answer session. Over to Dimple Mehta.
Hello, ma'am.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, yeah.
Yeah.
Can professional communication be misinterpreted or be difficult to understand across languages and cultures?
No, not really. I mean, language is just an enabler, but language does not distort the communication. So there is no way a message which is being given across culture, across different languages can get altered unless it has been absolutely translated, mistranslated. So and I mean, we are living in the world of technology. So technology has one language. So no matter where I am, no matter where you are coming from, technology allows us to connect. So, for example, when I was visiting Taiwan 1 year ago, And I did worry as to how am I going to read the signs, or how am I going to communicate if there is somebody who does not understand English and I don't understand Taiwanese, right? But then, of course, Google has an answer to everything. So I just downloaded an app and I was able to point my phone camera at the sideboard and it translated it for me, right? Now, let me also tell you about a time when technology was not existent to this level, right? So I'm talking of 1996 when I visited Italy. And I actually visited Sicily, which is an island south of Italy. And we happened to be in a place where nobody spoke English. So we were three of us Indians who were communicating with each other in English. And then our boss, who had also moved along with us to from India to, he was actually a Britisher, who had moved there 3 days before us, and he knew English. And we had zero idea of Italian. We never knew how to understand Italian. And we were supposed to work in that office for 6 years, starting from day one. All the manuals were written in Italian. All the figures and drawings, apart from the lines and numbers, everything was in Italian. And we are talking of semiconductor domain. Now, to expect us that we will be operational and we will be able to do our job from the day one that we join the office, where we have zero idea of Italian and they will just not be able to communicate in English because all their life they have, all their textbooks were written in Italian, right? So how will we actually talk to each other to say diode or transistor? There, even to explain what a diode or transistor is would be difficult, right? But and there was no technology, there was no Google helping us back then. But we were able to. Number one, we were able to use drawings and figures. So when I actually was trying to say things, we were able to draw, we were able to use hand gestures, we were able to actually communicate things, and this is basic communication we are talking about, right? But science allows us in a way that there is less scope to misunderstand something, because science is a very objective thing, right? So while you can miscommunicate a feeling or an emotion, which is actually not possible because your eyes and your entire body speaks along with you, so your emotion also gets equally translated. Science is even better. There is everything is objective. So we survived very well, and then eventually we learned Italian. So language is not a barrier to communication at all.
Great, ma'am. Very nicely you elaborate that yes, language is not a barrier. Language is just a medium of communication, nothing else. So it's not a big thing. Like and what you said that now Google is everywhere. Earlier also language was not a barrier. So this is what very nicely you highlighted. Uh, there is nothing novel in being superior. There is nothing noble in being superior to your fellow man. There is nothing noble being superior to your fellow man. True nobility is being superior to your former self. True nobility is to be superior to your former self. This is what very nice quotation I would like to share. And we have among us Rohit Sikka. Rohit Sikka is our director, Genius Lakshya. He's asking a question, ma'am. Very good question. He's having soft skills are comparatively less emphasized or not emphasized in our curriculum. Soft skills are not emphasized in our curriculum as it focuses on memory management, not on practical application of knowledge much. How it can be cultivated from the early childhood.
Yes, so I will actually give an example again from my life, and I will give an example of the mistake that I made as a mother. And so I had my son who was a toddler, and we had this game where there is a plastic pole, and there are rings of different diameter and colors. And when we buy this box, they always come in a pyramid where the smallest ring is on the top and the largest diameter ring is at the bottom. And we assume that that is the only way to fill up the rings or to stack the rings, right? We all assume that ऐसे ही करना होता है. So my son was playing with it and he would just put any ring in any order, right? उसको मतलब नहीं है कि छोटी रिंग पहले गई कि बड़ी रिंग पहले गई या बीच में गई या कहाँ गई, right? He was just putting the rings. I, as a mother, made a mistake, a severe mistake, which I repent even to this date, where I would keep telling him, नहीं बेटा बड़ा वाला रिंग जो है पहले डालेंगे और फिर छोटा वाला सबसे ऊपर डालेंगे. This is part of a soft skill development where we as parents sometimes go wrong. This is just one tiny example जो कि इतनी आसानी से overlook हो जाता है. I go on and tell my son, बेटा ये cow है, ये sun है, ये orange है, ये moon है. I go on and say, बेटा ये जो दिख रहा है ये apple है और ये इस color का होता है, right? So soft skill development की शुरुआत शुरू से हो जाती है. You know, from the moment the child has all his sensories open and enabled. In the name of making our child smarter and giving him scientific knowledge of, you know, how things work and how the world is, and giving him all the fancy books, we start stealing away the ability for him to develop his skills of learning, which is the first skill that he has been born with. A child knows when he is hungry. A child knows when he has to and how he has to suck milk from the breast of the mother. So the ability to learn is at its peak. He doesn't know milk, but he knows what hunger is. So the ability to learn is at the topmost, and the knowledge of science is at the lowermost. But we, as overexcited and hyper parents, we start reducing his ability to learn and start giving him scientific knowledge the way we have known science. So all we have to do as a parent is to allow him to explore, not to curb that ability to learn which he is inherently born with. Let him experience the orange and apple and come and ask what it is. Let him eat it and then say whether it is sweet or sour. Let him try to understand the various juices and the way they are, everything about it, right? So that's the first level of learnability, first skill, which is absolutely important, which we have to allow to prosper. And then of course comes all multitude of various other skills, whether it is the ability to play with other students, I mean other children, right? So you have siblings at home, you have other parents. So the other thing where most Indian parents go wrong is saying बच्चा है, जाने दो, right? So it's okay, बच्चा है, बच्चे को जाने दो, पर सच में जाने दो, फिर उसको पकड़ो मत, फिर उसको छोड़ दो. हम ये भी बोलते हैं बच्चा है जाने दो, फिर हम उसको अपनी वाले तरीकों में ढालने की कोशिश करते हैं. So that's where the ability to share the things that are commonly given to us. मेरे पास बॉल है, तेरे पास बॉल है, वो जो कर रहा है करने दो, उसको लड़ के रो के सीखने दो कि शेयरिंग में तो मजा था, लड़ने में मजा नहीं था. टीम वर्क में बॉल अच्छी खेली गई. फुटबॉल खेलने के लिए एक नहीं 2 खिलाड़ी लगते हैं. सो वी हैव टू गिव दैट अपॉर्च्युनिटी. सो वहीं से सॉफ्ट स्किल का बनना शुरू हो जाता है जब बच्चा बहुत छोटा होता है. और वो जो छोटी-छोटी प्राइमरी लेवल ऑफ सॉफ्ट स्किल्स है, वो ही फिर बाद में बड़े होकर के बिगर स्किल्स बनती है. वहीं से लीडरशिप शुरू होती है, वहीं से शेयरिंग शुरू होती है, टीम वर्क शुरू होता है, कोलैबोरेशन शुरू होता है. So, yeah.
Very effectively you enhance that yes, why soft skill we can and when soft skill we can. We have among us DJ Dhiren. Hmm? His question is, will you please tell us in the brief that how can we implement the soft skill in students by creating the different curriculum or by providing different scopes? Practical implementation. It is in the connection of the same question of Roishika. Yes, ma'am.
So, the kind of soft skills which are important at the school level are slightly different, and actually they are simpler than the ones which are needed for industry preparation or for college students, right? and we don't need to do too much. We just have to allow the children to do little things. So for example, अगर उनको birthday party करना अच्छा लगता है, give them an opportunity to arrange a birthday party. एक इवेंट मैनेजमेंट स्किल है जिसमें कि बहुत सारी स्किल्स का कॉम्बिनेशन है. How to arrange a birthday party for yourself, right? और how to arrange an outdoor party for yourself. ये मस्ती में हो जाती है और बच्चे को ये समझ में आ जाता है कि मुझे कैसे कम्युनिकेट करना है. अब मुझे दूसरे बच्चे को बुलाना है तो उसकी पेरेंट्स की परमिशन उसमें इन्वॉल्व है. मेरे पेरेंट की परमिशन उसमें इन्वॉल्व है. उसमें टाइम इन्वॉल्व है, उसमें स्पेस इन्वॉल्व है, उसमें ड्यूरेशन इन्वॉल्व है, उसमें कुछ एक्टिविटी करनी है वो इन्वॉल्व है, उसमें टाइम मैनेजमेंट इन्वॉल्व है. इट्स अ प्रोजेक्ट, right? So for students, we can actually start giving them simple things to do, right? A simple thing could also be that, take your friends, and while we are on a field trip, make sure that there is one thing which you learn and there's another thing that you learn, and when you come back, let's do a small session of interchanging information. I saw a fish in the aquarium, you saw a fish in the aquarium. Next day, when we are back from the field trip, let us compare our notes. What did I notice about the fish? What did you notice about the fish? I clicked the picture, you clicked the picture. What are the colors in those pictures? How is the fish moving and how is the fish surviving, right? So these are very simple things which can be just a little bit of extra of what is already being done in the curriculum can be added, where students are given opportunity to do something. The more they do it, the better they will become good at it, right? So next time when they go to the field trip, they might actually start by creating a questionnaire before the field trip, saying, okay, these 5 questions I will do, those 5 questions you do, or out of these 5 questions मैं सिर्फ इस क्वेश्चन का आंसर ढूंढूंगा, तुम सिर्फ उस क्वेश्चन का आंसर ढूंढो, आकर के नोट्स मिलाएंगे. नेक्स्ट टाइम they will do it even better organized, right? Or it could be apps, writing apps or coding. So as I said, problem solving, arranging meetings, arranging parties, arranging small dialogues or exchanges of information, which they love to do among themselves. These can be enabled at a classroom level. There are always zero periods. There are always times when there is no particular class subject is being taught. Let take advantage of those periods where the children are actually doing this. It could be even read a newspaper and come back with what you picked up from, and then you just share. बस छोटी सी शुरुआत करनी है, उसके बाद बच्चे आजकल के इतने स्मार्ट हैं, दे आर एबल टू पिक इट अप एंड मेक अ लॉट आउट ऑफ इट.
ग्रेट, बहुत अच्छा बताया. छोटी सी शुरुआत करनी है. आइंस्टाइन, व्हाट आइंस्टाइन से, नो प्रॉब्लम कैन बी सॉल्व फ्रॉम द सेम लेवल ऑफ कॉन्शियसनेस दैट क्रिएटेड इट. नो प्रॉब्लम कैन बी सॉल्व from the same level of consciousness that created it. So you need to think something different. You need to think something higher. You need to plan something better. Yes, Dimple madam.
आप म्यूटेड हैं डिम्पल जी.
Yes, ma'am. What is the difference between communication skill, soft skills, and behavioral skills?
Yeah, so communication skill, soft skill is actually both. So soft skill is anything which is not quantitative, or which is not governed by scientific learning or mathematical learning, right? So the difference between communication and behavioral is like this. A good communication skill is able to outshine the interaction between two people or two things or two subjects, right? A behavioral skill could be an individual's performance or individual's being, right? So with a positive behavior, for instance, or with a behavioral skill which allows me to always work and improve and learn and be better or be more and more perfect, can enable me to always be better than what I am today, right? That's my behavioral skill, which applies onto me first, and then eventually it also starts to influence the circle, closer circle around me. So once I start demonstrating a good behavioral skill, I'm able to create bigger and bigger. My circle of influence becomes better and better and more, inspirational and impactful to people around me. Now, communication skill is only focusing on an exchange of information. It is not necessarily the ability to do something. In behavioral skill, the ability to perform also falls into the picture. So they are related, but there is a partial overlap. So if they were like Venn diagram, you will notice that they have their significant distinct areas which need to be developed, but there is a part which overlaps each other.
Great, ma'am. Like all these are personal skills. You very nicely said that how you can develop all these skills and how far these skills would be useful in 21st century. Personal development is a major time saver. Personal development is a major time saver. The better you become, the less time it take you to achieve your goals. Personal development is a major time saver. The more the better you become, the less time would be required to achieve your goals. So everybody has to develop continues. It is a kaizen. It is a kaizen. You have to develop yourself. You have to enhance yourself. Madam, have skills. See now in skills requirements, especially the technical skills. Hmm? Not the basic skills. The technical skills are required like to update continuously. It is called hub skills. You know it very well. That the skills which were applicable before 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, like before 20 years, 30 years, typewriting was a excellent skill. Now it is absolutely extinct. So many skills. Now same way every 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. Earlier CNC machines were there, then now VMC machines are there. So many things in each and every area. The skills are becoming like required to update continuously. So what about the hard skills?
Yeah, so it's like, you cannot take the last step of the ladder without climbing the first steps, right? As I said, even to be technologically expert and proficient, you have to know the core domain very well. So, unless, for instance, you know all about electricity, you cannot be an electrical engineer. So, you have to graduate yourself from the level one, and then you have to go and become more and more proficient with levels which are required for the future skills, right? So any skill, whether it is language or mathematical or communication or interpersonal, they all begin at the first level of at the small scale level of, as I said, when a child is small, you start enabling those opportunities for him or her to interact, right? And they are seen in the most basic and elementary form, and then they start developing. So any skill for that matter has to take the first step, become good at it, to enable the next step. Only then you become better at the next step. You cannot become better at it at the next step unless you have mastered the first level. And that applies to everything, any skill, any knowledge, any science.
Look, ma'am, you are absolutely right. But what my question is like, why people majority we have seen they are not updating themselves. They are stagnant. Like we have seen very skillful people. Like they get secure jobs, a government job, corporate job, and they don't update themselves. I told you that before 20 to 25 years, typewriting was an excellent competency. Hmm? But then, if I'll not learn how to use computer, I will be out of date. But what happens? Majority of the people see once a teacher is getting a job in a school or in a government school or a private school, will not enhance the skill. Will not enhance the skill. Same way in engineering. We talk about engineering. Like what syllabus we had of mechanical, electrical, civil, IT, EC, all the branches. And still, after look many years, we are teaching them the same thing. It's till we are teaching them, they're measuring the things and all these things, though it is required. You very nicely said the basic skills, fundamental skills are absolutely required. Then and then you can upgrade yourself. But majority of the people, they are not upgrading themselves. That is, we have seen in engineering field also, an architect, an engineer who is working for the last 25 years would not like to develop the new technology, would not like to adopt the new technology in himself or herself. What about this?
Yeah, let me try to give an example through my field. Hmm? So in 2012 or 14, somewhere around that time, I was sitting face to face interviewing a candidate to hire for my project. And he was actually serving as a junior faculty in one of the local engineering colleges, and he wanted to apply for the role of project team member in the, in which I was trying to hire him. And in interview, I was asking him questions about what is this, what is that, what is, right? And he was able to answer. Then I moved to ask him why and how of the concepts. So when I started asking why and how, he could not answer, which means he had known those things, but he did not know how to apply that knowledge. He was still at the remember stage of the Bloom's taxonomy. He has not really gone very well into the understand or forget about all the other stages, right? So when I try to hire him, I'm in a fix. If I leave him and don't hire him, he goes back into being the faculty. And if I hire him, then I cannot use him unless I train him, right? Anyway, eventually I hired him. Of course, I could not put him into the project where the time was critical, because in business, we now don't get time to train people. We need ready-made resources, right? But that points out at something. There was a time in his life to have known those facts and principles better, which he probably missed out on. He missed that time while he was studying himself, while he was a student himself, and he missed out on learning the why and how of those things, which later on became a problem few years later. Hmm? So the now let's talk about the typewriter skill or the computational skills. I understand today if I need to learn how to operate the computer, I don't really need to first go through a typewriter skill. I don't need to, right? But people who graduated from typewriter to computers were faster on keyboard than I was, because their limb coordination had already developed better than mine. Correct. The next generation is also faster because they are born with computers in their hand, with devices in their hand. So unfortunately, as a transition generation, I was the one who took a longer time to become good at keyboard than the generation before me and the generation after me, right? But we do have to understand something here. In any transition, this is evolution of life, this is evolution of technology, and this is evolution of how skills are going to always be. There will be skills which will see a leap of a generation, which is okay, and there will be skills which will always go through their stepwise graduation, which is also needed, right? So the case to case basis, the skills will actually evolve differently in different scenarios, but what is needed is anyway needed, and if you can bypass is fine. If you can bypass and then become a master at it by practice, good. But if you really need to be if you really need to speed up your proficiency, you are better advised to do the first step first.
Great, ma'am. Now employers need to broaden their strategies to close the skill gaps. Even employers, they need to broaden their strategies to like cross the skill gaps. There is a huge skill gaps between like the older one and the newcomers. So they need to like broaden their strategies also. This is what a message for all the employers also. Same way Rohit Sikha is among us, ma'am, again he is asking that hard skills are the entryway to various many imperial institutes like IIT, IIMs, and AIMS in our country. How to adjudge a student from his excellent hard skills? Yes, ma'am.
So that's right. I mean, entryway basically here means that these students are going through a competition, right? This it's the competition which they write through JEE, which allows them to get entry into IITs or IIMs or AIMS, correct? And this competition today judges only their hard skills, sadly, right? We are not using the judgment of soft skills to take admissions to these premier Ivy League colleges here in this country. But if you notice in the global landscape, the top Ivy League universities of other countries, they don't just look at your academic grades, they look at your overall personality development. They don't just give you a written competition, both objective or subjective, to see how you stand with respect to the knowledge that you have learned in the classroom, but they also like to see how you perform in a debate, in a social situation, in an emotional situation. They like to see your worldviews on social and political conditions which are prevailing, and then they take a judgment on whether to take you for, give you an admission or not. So it is the lack of, the judgment or the filtering that is being done for the entry into these institutions, which is why hard skills are the only means to get entry. Otherwise, if we were smart enough, and we are changing, if you look at the new national education policy, if you have gone through it, we have understood, and we have started to talk about arts and science together in the same breath now, right? So soft skill is actually more about the art of learning science or art of doing science. So we are already talking of STEAM instead of STEM education. We are already trying to integrate the action of doing things, action of implementing science, and then judging person's ability, how he or she performs an action, not only knows about it. So times are changing. This whole entryway is also going to graduate itself, because otherwise it becomes very difficult for undergraduates who go into these institutions. They sometimes take admissions, but I have witnessed problems in many undergraduate students who have struggled to get grades and to graduate. And it has not been easy because they were only focusing on getting good marks and staying on the top in the class. And they somehow missed on developing the other abilities which were also needed to survive in these. We even before getting a degree, even before getting a BTech, these students have suffered. And imagine they were cream of the country.
So very excellently you elaborate how you can adjust and how you can identify the hard skills among the students and how you can promote them. Yes, Dimple madam.
Ma'am, which is more important to future career, skills or connections?
See, connections will happen if you have skills, the right skills to connect.
Excellent. Connects, yes, connection definitely you can create if you are skillful there. Yes, but till now, what happened, especially like what we have seen because of the community connection, especially if we talk in Gujarat and Saurashtra, especially community connection. If you do have good community connections, you can really move ahead and you can really overtake others. But now gradually these community connections are decreasing. But this is also one of the facts. But you very nicely said in one line only. If you have skills, connections of course would be there. Yes, ma'am. Dimple, ma'am.
Yeah, actually, let me also say something about compassion and empathy now becoming more and more relevant in the times, right? Compassion and empathy actually allow you to build a network and to connect with people, not just for the sake of adding a list of friends in your social media, but for the sake of advancing for the sake of social impact, for the sake of more development and a better society. So if somebody has to really work on building a network of connections, they have to look at themselves with the eyes of how compassionate they are, how empathetic they are. The more you develop these skills, it's the right kind of network connection that you will develop, not really the right kind. That's, I think, the word I would want to use. You're muted. Yeah.
Dimple ma'am, yes. Your question.
Ma'am, what necessary skill is required for a fresher in industrial engineering to get a job in the core industries?
Yeah, so in industrial engineering, we are now looking at processes which are becoming more and more automated and driven by data which is collected, right? So we talked about some of these skills on the analytical side, on the digital and technology side. These are important because the person has to be able to process the continuous data that is being churned out by those machines, and which is going to determine the efficiency and the product development process, right? So that's where it becomes more and more relevant to stay on top of the core sciences of the industry that they are working upon. Let's say it is about let's say it is mechanical engineering, for instance. So they have to know the principles of their core engineering very well. And on top of that, they have to be able to understand the data processing, the data analysis, the ability to connect the information to the wider network where it is being, the cloud network. So they have to be able to understand the cyber physical systems just enough. They don't have to be a master of that, but they have to know how the connected machines are actually engaging with each other. So that part they need to know very well. And then, of course, the hard skill of being a better operator. Now, the better operator here does not mean somebody who's doing a repetitive job, because that is getting automated eventually. But how the machine is going to respond to systems and processes. So the understanding of the machine and the systems is more important, more relevant. The knowledge of those tools which they are operating is, essential for him to survive.
Nice, excellent, ma'am. Friends, we are ending towards this wonderful genius Samvaad. Ma'am, you said something about IUCEE and Global Industrial Advisory. Say something about this. What is it exactly?
Universal Collaboration for Engineering Education. It was founded about 12 years ago. Professor Krishna Vedula, he's a Dean Emeritus Professor at University of Massachusetts Lowell, USA. He retired this year and also permanently relocated back to India in Hyderabad. So 12 years ago, he got this passion, which he drove into a big network of 200 people who are placed all over the world right now, including India and US mainly. They're all mainly academicians from the various universities, and also few industry people who have either retired or who are also currently serving with various industries in different engineering domains. His principal idea was to improve the quality of engineering education. So we are working with tier 2 and tier 3 colleges all over India, where we are trying to intersect with leaderships of these institutions, faculties, and the students. And we are trying to bring in the elements of education pedagogy, which will get more out of what they do, right? To the ability to understand teaching, ability to understand learning systems. So there are various clusters which are for different specialities. Like there is a teaching and learning cluster, there is an entrepreneurship cluster, there is an engineering 4.0 cluster, like that, right? So, and then we are also working with students very closely, trying to develop leadership skills in them, or the ability to work on UN sustainable development goals by doing a lot of problem solving activities, So there are multiple things which are we are doing as part of this collaboration network, and I'm one of the directors there. And I engage more with students and also with the overall organizational affairs of IUCE.
Like see, you are mainly with the engineering, and we see this engineering is I think one of the biggest profession in India and maybe across the world also. Everywhere engineering there is there, from good morning to good night, from we can say pin to piano or rather pin to plane, even we can say from like we can say BPL, below poverty line, say Bill Gates, till we have engineering. We can say everywhere engineering is there. But now we have seen that this a long time ago, people who sacrificed their sleep, their family, their food, their laughter, and other joys of life were called saints, and now they are called engineers. This is a funny quotation. Earlier, those who have sacrificed everything, they were saints, and now they are engineers. Tell something about this, especially engineering, the future of engineering, and especially with the national education policy. With the national education policy, how far this engineering profession would grow, would survive, and would enhance and should enhance. Yes,
Yeah,
madam.
so in detail, it will become a talk for another session, of course, because National Education Policy is a 500-page long document, and it covers everything from kindergarten to higher education and research. But yes, if we just talk about engineering and the future of engineering, particularly potential in India, and how new national education policy is going to transform the way engineering has been perceived, at least in the last 2 decades, where engineering was more about being able to get a degree and then get a good dowry or earn a reputation to have a good life. So now people have understood, and what I am doing personally also, apart from being member of IUCEE, even as an individual, the force that I'm trying to bring is to see engineering less as a degree and less as a profession and more as an art of being. We technically we are all engineers. Engineer is nobody else but somebody who can solve problems based on the information that you have gained, any information that you have gained. And you don't have to wait to a level of 4 years of degree to become an engineer. Somebody can be an engineer at the age of 14 if they are able to connect the dots of information and start solving problems, which is why we see a lot of child prodigies coming up now. So to me, engineering is a verb, and the way new national education policy promotes it is that we are already talking about putting in a lot of focus on STEAM education from very beginning. Then we have Atal Innovation Labs, which are present in schools, which promote and which excite children to do a lot of small level of experiments, right? So the focus is going more on doing things, get your hands dirty, get your hands activated. Don't just sit in a classroom where there is a one-way instruction from teacher to students. We are sending, literally pushing our children to go into labs and spend time in doing activities inside the labs, and we are okay when they break things. So from the very beginning, from the Atal Innovation Mission all the way to the engineering labs and centers of excellences, the new education policy is going to promote more and more of this by way of making it part of an integral part of a structure and curriculum, right? When it becomes an integral structure, then it is no longer something that I do out of choice, but something which I have to do. It becomes part of accreditation. It becomes part of, getting a degree or a certificate. So by pushing this, we are literally converting everybody into a engineer of the sorts at any level, right? So that is what the future of engineers and engineering in India that I look like. And we have a huge potential because हमारा ये बहुत तेज है. जो जुगाड़ इनोवेशन है वो बहुत ऊँची चीज़ है। मतलब जिसको कहते हैं नकल करने वाले को ज़्यादा दिमाग चाहिए, या फिर जो एक हैकर होता है ना, साइबर हैकर, वो एक साइबर प्रोटेक्टर से ज़्यादा कैपेबल और स्मार्ट होता है। तो हम तो पैदाइशी है, हमारा तो डीएनए ऐसा है कि हम जुगाड़ू हैं। तो हम तो हैं ही इंजीनियर।
Uh, Excellent when you said scientists dream about doing great things. Scientists dream about doing the great things, and engineers do them, so engineers make the things possible, feasible, for everybody. So this is what the, like we can say, the great advantage being an Indian, because the way you say that we are the biggest jugari in the world, because our jugar is very intellectual, very planned, and really we can say of high quality. So, friends, before we end, I would like to share with you a small story, because this is 2021 is starting, and this is the first Union Samvaad. दोस्तों, एक कारपेंटर था। एक कारपेंटर, उसने 40 साल तक जॉब किया अपना, बहुत अच्छे से, बहुत ही ईमानदारी से जॉब किया। ही वाज वन ऑफ द हाईली स्किल्ड कारपेंटर। तो 40 साल के बाद वो अपने बॉस को, मालिक को बोलता है कि नाउ आई वर्क फॉर 40 years, 4 decades, and I would like to retire now because I have done my best in my life. उसका मालिक, बॉस, उसको बोलता है कि तू 2 ढाई महीने के लिए काम कर ले, एक प्रोजेक्ट है हमारे, एक मकान का प्रोजेक्ट, एक हाउस का प्रोजेक्ट है, वो प्रोजेक्ट तू एक कर ले अच्छे से, उसके बाद हम तेरा फेयरवेल पार्टी करेंगे और तुझे अच्छे से रिटायर करेंगे। ही सेड नो प्रॉब्लम। तो मालिक ने उसको वो काम दे दिया, एक मकान बनाने का। तो बट when he was thinking, I'm going to retire after 2 months, 2.5 months, so he could not concentrate well on his work. तो कारपेंटर क्या, जो nailing करे, polishing करे, carving करे, hammering करे, all these carpentry activities he could not enjoy, and he was not giving his best. अभी फिर भी क्या हुआ कि 2.5 महीने के बाद जैसे तैसे उसने अपना मकान बना लिया, बराबर, वो मकान तैयार कर लिया। और उसके बाद उसका जो बॉस होता है, मालिक, वो पर्टिकुलर एरिया में आता है, ऑफिस में आता है, और आके उसको बुलाता है कारपेंटर को, तेरा काम हो गया? इससे यस, हो गया मेरा काम, आई हैव डन माय जॉब, एंड वो मकान पूरा तैयार हो गया है। ग्रेट। व्हाइल मूविंग दे वर, बोले कि चलो मैं दिखाता हूँ। तो व्हाइल मूविंग, तो बॉस ने उसको रोका और उसके हाथ में वो मकान का चाबी दिया। बॉस ने वो मकान का चाबी उसके हाथ में दिया कि डियर कारपेंटर, यू वर्क फॉर अस फॉर 4 decades, 40 years, तो मैं ये मकान है वो आपको गिफ्ट करना चाहता हूँ। दिस पर्टिकुलर मकान वो आपके लिए है। आई वांट टू गिफ्ट यू दिस घर, आई वांट टू गिफ्ट यू। अभी आप सोचो कि वो कारपेंटर का हालत क्या होगा। उसको लगा, यार मैंने पूरे साल, पूरी लाइफ मैंने बेस्ट काम किया, पूरे 40 साल बेस्ट काम किया, एंड जब मेरे लिए मैं अपना मकान बनाने का जो था, दैट वाज द वर्स्ट माय क्रिएशन। सो दोस्तों, ये होता है कि अगर आप अच्छी तरीके, बिकॉज यू आर शेपिंग योर कैरियर डे टू डे, यू आर शेपिंग योर कैरियर डे टू डे। कोई एक दिन में बिल गेट्स नहीं हो जाता है, कोई एक दिन में कपिल देव नहीं हो जाता है, कोई एक दिन में अमिताभ बच्चन नहीं हो जाता है, कोई एक दिन में संपदा पचौरी नहीं हो जाता है। दैट्स नॉट पॉसिबल एक दिन में, बिकॉज सी यू हैव nailed everything, you have polished everything, you have got everything, you have hammered everything. Day to day you have enhanced yourself, day to day you have created yourself, you have shaped up yourself, and then you have become what you are today, what you are today. So whether you are a student, whether you are a businessman, whether you are a sports person, अगर आप जॉब करते हो, आप फादर हो, मदर हो, कोई भी हो, आपको डिसाइड करना है कि काश की आकाश। वो कारपेंटर को लगा उस टाइम पे कि काश मुझे ये पता होता कि मैं अपना ही घर बना रहा हूं, तो वुड हैव डन द बेस्ट। तो आप हमेशा ये समझो कि आप जो भी काम करते हो, जब भी काम करते हो, एवरी मोमेंट यू आर मेकिंग योर ओन होम, यू आर मेकिंग योर ओन करियर, यू आर मेकिंग योर ओन पर्सनालिटी। वो अगर आप लाइफ में समझोगे, सीखोगे, तो लाइफ विल बी द बेस्ट आउटकम। जैसे मैडम ने बताया कि हमें एक लाइफ में 10 लाइफ जीना है। इट्स नॉट इन द टर्म्स ऑफ क्वांटिटी, इट्स इन द टर्म्स ऑफ क्वालिटी, इट्स इन द टर्म्स ऑफ क्वालिटी। तो एक लाइफ में 10 लाइफ का क्वालिटी देना है, तो हर एक क्षण, हर एक मोमेंट यू हैव टू गिव योर बेस्ट। डोंट काउंट द डेज, make the days count. Don't count the days, make the days count. This is what the message from my side. Now, Sampada Pachori, if you want to give any message to the audience, you can give your message.
My only message to everybody who's listening and watching is हिंदी में ईमानदारी और इंग्लिश में ऑनेस्टी। ईमानदारी ही है बस जिससे सब कुछ होता है। अपने से ईमानदार रहोगे तो सबसे ईमानदार रहोगे। सो इफ यू आर ऑनेस्ट विद व्हाटएवर यू थिंक और डू और विद योर एक्शंस विद योरसेल्फ, यू नो, अगर अपने से ऑनेस्टी रखोगे, इफ यू आर ऑनेस्ट विद योरसेल्फ, anything that you do will be the best of what you can do or what you're able to do in that moment. So just practice honesty with yourself. That's all it takes. Everything else will start falling in place on its own.
Excellent, really. Honesty is the best policy, and charity begins from home. Honesty is the best policy, and charity begins at home. Like you be honest and start with yourself. Be honest to yourself. This is what an excellent message from Sampada. We are really very much thankful to you, ma'am. We are thankful to Dimple, ma'am. We are thankful to all the viewers across not Rajkot, Saurashtra, Gujarat, India, but across the world. Many viewers are there. We really wish you a wonderful, happy, healthy new year. And we really thank our technical team also. We thank all of you. And next Sunday, the 40th episode of Genius Samvaad will be having among us Dr. Kamal Parikh, who is a wonderful orator, who is a wonderful speaker, and a life skill trainer. He will be joining us next Sunday, 11 o'clock. Don't miss yourself. Till then, you take care of yourself, take care of your family, and wish you a very happy Sunday. Thank you all.